balanced church, an effective church, is a church that balances prayer with work. It is a church that balances prayer with action. God will hold you accountable, not for what he asked me to do, but for what he asked you to do. Please understand that once we connect with our purpose, you will attract opposition. But how does Nehemiah respond to the opposition? Because this should always be the way we respond to opposition. Because I have told you this is an year of action. And you are rising to do something. You are rising to fulfill your dream. I can guarantee you, if it is in the will of God, it will face opposition. If you are doing what God has called you to do, you will face opposition. You know, the problem with many of us is that many times when we face opposition, we think it is a sign of God rejecting us. We think it is a sign that God is not with us. But sometimes it is the very opposite. The reason why you are going through that opposition, the reason why things are so hard for you, it is because God is with you. But we live in a world that has an enemy, and our enemy is the devil. And the devil uses people. Too bad. We must be people of prayer and action. Nehemiah turned to God. He prayed that serious prayer. But I want you to see verse 6 says, after praying that prayer, verse 6 says, so we did what? We built the wall. And the people had a mind to work. Remember, the enemy is at work to make you abandon the dream that God has given you. The enemy is at work to make you abandon the calling that God has placed on your life. The enemy is at work to discourage you. And if the enemy can discourage you, he has succeeded. But Nehemiah could not be discouraged. He continued to build. Anytime you abandon that which God has called you to do, whether it is praying, whether it is giving, whether it is serving, whether it is doing that which God has put for you to do in your community, to touch lives, to change lives, the enemy will have succeeded. Now, it is not uncommon for opposition to increase, even when you are in prayer, because the enemy is determined to make your strength to fail. The way to react to opposition, the way to deal with discouragement, the way to deal with attacks, whether it is at home or in your place of work, is to make your prayer to God, because it is God who has sent you on that assignment. Nehemiah is building and praying. So they realized we have an enemy. So what did they do? They put a watch. We are not going to allow ourselves to be stopped, to be discouraged. We are not going to allow our strength to fail because of the opposition. That is number one. We are going to invoke the power and the presence of God. But number three, we are going to do whatever is within our power to protect ourselves by the help of God, so that the vision and the dream that God has given us is not stopped by this Tobias and Barrett, Ammonite, and all this opposition. They set a watch. A watch means we are aware of our circumstances. We are aware of our enemies. We are not sleeping. One of the worst problems we have in the church today is lack of spiritual watchfulness. You cannot be lazy and become great at the same time. They were praying, they were working, but they were also watching. They were so sensitive to the fact that they were on a holy agenda, a God's agenda. And a God's agenda always has an enemy, the devil. The enemy will keep reminding us, you cannot succeed. If you hear something so many times, there is a likelihood you will believe it. Remember the Lord, great and awesome, and fight for your brethren, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your houses. Do not buy fear. Do not buy discouragement. Do not buy the opposition of the enemy. I repeat, do not be afraid of them. It takes a fighter to win a battle.